Chief Femi Lawson had gone through many scenarios in his lifetime. Deals worth millions, fierce boardroom battles, shocking political betrayals. But nothing prepared him for what he saw the moment he stepped into his mansion. He expected laughter, running footsteps. He expected the warm embrace of the only child he thought he had protected. But instead, the powerful billionaire froze. There on the cold marble floor of his own mansion, with a bucket beside him and sweat dripping down his young face. His son, his only son, was on his knees, cleaning the ground like a servant. For a moment, the world stopped moving. Chief Femi's breath caught in his throat. His heart slammed against his chest. He couldn't speak. He couldn't move because nothing, absolutely nothing, was more heartbreaking than realizing he had returned home too late and that the boy he loved had suffered in silence under his own roof. Before we continue, let us know in the comments section where you are watching from. And remember to like and subscribe so you don't miss the rest of the story. Now, let's continue. Chief Femi Lawson, one of the richest men in Africa, leaned back in his seat, his mind drifting to memories he wished he could erase. 6 years ago, he had lost his wife in a tragic accident. 6 years ago, he had buried his pain in business expansions, foreign investments, and endless travel. 5 years ago, he had left his only son, Thomas, in the care of relatives, promising to return soon. Soon became months, months became years, and years became distance. Now guilt weighed on him like iron. When his jet landed at the private terminal in Lagos, he stepped out with the confident stride of a billionaire. But inside of him, his heart was trembling. His home, a magnificent mansion in Banana Island, had never felt so far away. Security escorted him through the wide marble entrance. He inhaled deeply, expecting to see his son run toward him the way he used to, but the house was quiet. Too quiet? He frowned. "Where is Thomas?" he asked his head butler, Mr. Ajayi. The elderly man bowed respectfully. "Sir, your son is in the house. But there is something you must see before you speak to him." The billionaire raised a brow. "What do you mean?" Mr. Yemi hesitated. "Thomas has been working here." "Working?" Chief Femi repeated. "Doing what exactly?" The butler swallowed. "As a servant." The billionaire blinked once, then his heart stopped. "Take me to him." They walked through the long hallway, past portraits and chandeliers, until they reached the servant quarters. There, kneeling on the floor, scrubbing tiles with trembling hands, was Thomas Lawson, his only child, his son, underfed, underdressed, exhausted, and working like a common house servant. Chief Femi felt the world tilt beneath him. "Thomas," he whispered. The boy looked up, startled, confused. And in that moment, the billionaire realized the most painful truth of all. Thomas didn't recognize him. And this was only the beginning. Thomas stood up slowly, wiping sweat from his forehead. His eyes narrowed with suspicion. "Who are you?" The billionaire staggered back as if struck. "Thomas, it's me, your father." Silence, heavy, cold. Then Thomas spoke softly. "My father? My father left me." A knife twisted in the billionaire's chest. Before he could respond, Mr. Yemi stepped forward. "Thomas, this is indeed your father. He has returned to take you home." The boy shook his head. "What home?" "The last time he came, he said he'd be back in a few days." Waited and waited. He pointed at the servant uniform, clinging to his thin frame. "No one wanted to take care of me. I became the extra child in this mansion. People bark orders at me. I sleep in the servant's room. I work for food. That is what I know." Chief Femi felt his knees weaken. How could this happen? He whispered to the household staff. They avoided his eyes. They had their excuses, but nothing could justify it. The billionaire tried to approach his son, but Thomas stepped back cautiously like a wounded animal, unsure if the hunter had come to rescue or capture. "Please," Chief Femi whispered. "Give me a chance." Thomas turned away. That night, the billionaire sat alone in the luxurious living room, staring at the family portrait. His wife's smiling face seemed to accuse him. "You left him when he needed you most." He buried his face in his hands. He had returned home, but now he had to earn back the right to be called a father. Determined to uncover the truth, Chief Femi began investigating the people who were supposed to care for his son, and what he uncovered was horrifying. His late wife's cousin, Mrs. Teo, had been left in charge of Thomas. Instead of caring for him, she had embezzled millions from Thomas's inheritance. Money meant for education, welfare, and security. She had used the boy as unpaid labor. The staff, fearing her influence, had treated Thomas accordingly. The billionaire fired everyone involved, but the emotional damage was done. One afternoon, he tried once more to approach Thomas. "Son," he said gently, "I know I failed you, but let me make it right." Thomas shook his head. "You think money solves everything?" "No," the billionaire replied. "But love can." Thomas looked away. "I don't know what a father's love feels like anymore." The billionaire's heart broke again. Later that week, the story leaked online. Photos of a billionaire's son working as a servant went viral. Thomas's humiliation deepened, and he blamed his father for the newfound attention. But unknown to both father and son, someone else was watching them. Someone who planned to use the situation to destroy the billionaire once and for all. The billionaire had many competitors, but none as ruthless as Chief Adebayo, a man who had always envied Femi's success. When he saw the scandal trending online, he saw an opportunity. He called a meeting with Mrs. Teo, who had just been disgraced and kicked out of the mansion. She came fuming with bitterness. "Do you want revenge?" Chief Adebayo asked. She nodded fiercely. He smiled. "Good, because I want to ruin his empire." Together, they plotted a plan that would destroy the billionaire financially and emotionally. Back at the mansion, Thomas slowly began to bond with his father in small, fragile ways. They cooked together, played chess together, and took evening walks together. One night, Thomas asked a quiet question. "Dad, why did you leave?" The billionaire swallowed hard. "I ran away from my grief, and in running, I abandoned the best part of me." Thomas didn't answer, but he didn't walk away either. It was progress. But just when healing began, disaster struck. The billionaire received a message. His company had been sabotaged. Shares dropping, bank accounts frozen, projects collapsing, and the final blow. A forged document showing that Thomas was never really his son. The billionaire knew exactly who was behind it, but confronting them wasn't as painful as what happened next. Thomas saw the document and believed it. The next few days became a blur of fear, guilt, and sleepless nights. Chief Femi Lawson, the black African billionaire who once stood like a giant before the world, now sat small and trembling at the foot of his son's hospital bed. Machines beeped softly around Thomas. The young black African boy who had already suffered far more than any child should. The doctors had done their best. Thomas was safe, but exhaustion, malnutrition, stress, and emotional trauma had weakened his body. He slept for long hours, drifting in and out like someone lost between two worlds. Femi rarely moved. He barely ate. He refused to return home. He just sat there watching, praying, whispering regrets into the quiet glow of the hospital ward. On the third morning, something extraordinary happened. Thomas's fingers moved. At first, it was only a twitch, a small, almost invisible sign of life. But to Femi, it was as if someone had switched on the sun. He leaned forward instantly. "Thomas, my son, can you hear me?" Slowly, painfully, Thomas's eyelids lifted. The boy blinked, confused, weak, and frightened. And then his eyes met his father's face. A face he once feared. A face he thought had abandoned him. A face that now looked shattered by guilt. "Daddy," Thomas whispered. His voice was so soft it nearly broke the billionaire's heart. Femi choked. "Yes, my son. Here, I'm not going anywhere ever again." A tear, warm and pure, slid down Thomas's cheek. "You came back," he murmured. "I never should have left at all," Femi replied. "I failed you. I failed as a father." Thomas stared at him for a long moment. Not with anger, not with resentment, but with something deeper, a child's honest confusion. Why did they make me work, Daddy? Why didn't you know I was here? The question stabbed deeper than any accusation. Femi swallowed hard. My boy, those wicked people lied to me. They wanted my power, my money, and they thought hurting you would help them control me. Thomas's lips trembled. Oh, I wasn't useless. Femi gasped, overwhelmed. Useless. Thomas, you are my only heir, my only child, my blessing. You were never useless. I was the one who was blind. The boy's tears finally fell, and his father's tears followed. For a moment, they held each other's hands in complete silence. The confession. Later that day, as Thomas rested, Chief Femi met with the lead investigator assigned to the case. The investigator, a tall black African man named Inspector James, bowed his head respectfully. Chief, we have arrested Mrs. Teyo and Chief Adebayo. Their scheme runs far deeper than we imagined. Femi clenched his jaw. He had suspected as much. They planned to take full control of your companies. James continued. When they realized your son was still alive, they forced him into the servant quarters to keep him hidden. Femi's eyes closed painfully. The thought of his son washing floors while he sat in boardrooms. It was almost too much to bear. They will face justice, James assured him. But sir, they did not act alone. Femi opened his eyes sharply. There were others, James said. People among your trusted staff who helped them. They feared your influence and wanted you weakened. Femi exhaled slowly. Do whatever is necessary, he said quietly. But keep my son's name out of the public eye. Protect him. The investigator left. And the billionaire returned to his son's side, carrying the heavy weight of betrayal, but also the determination to rebuild. Healing begins. Days turned into weeks. Thomas slowly regained strength. The doctors were amazed at his recovery. His body was weak, but his spirit was strong. Femi hired the best therapists, nutritionists, and teachers. He refused to leave the boy's side. He learned what foods Thomas liked. He learned how to listen, something he had forgotten in his years of chasing wealth. And Thomas slowly learned to trust again. Sometimes they laughed together. Sometimes they cried. Sometimes they simply held each other's hands and sat in silence. It was during one of those quiet evenings that Thomas whispered, Daddy, can we go home now? Femi smiled with emotion. Yes, my son, we can go home. But he had one more surprise. The redemption ceremony. 2 months later, the mansion gates opened for a special gathering. Not for business, not for celebration, but for healing. The entire staff, new and carefully selected and deeply loyal, stood respectfully as Chief Femi Lawson, the black African billionaire, walked through the halls with Thomas, the black African boy he nearly lost, holding his hand. They stopped in the grand living room, the same room where Thomas had once secretly mopped floors. Femi turned to him. My son, this house failed you before. But today we make things right. He pulled out a silver key. A symbol of legacy and ownership. This is your home, he said softly. Not a place for fear, but a place for love. Thomas took the key with trembling hands. The staff clapped softly. Some even cried. Then something unexpected happened. One by one, the staff came forward. Cooks, gardeners, cleaners, guards, and knelt before the young boy they once saw scrubbing floors. Welcome home, young master, they said. Thomas's eyes widened. He looked up at his father. Daddy, this feels strange. Femi chuckled warmly. I know, but you deserve respect. And you deserve to grow up knowing who you are, not as a servant, but as my heir. Weeks passed. Thomas began schooling again, this time with tutors and teachers who respected him. He started enjoying childhood again, playing football, drawing, and exploring. But one evening, something unexpected happened. Thomas brought a small wooden box to his father. What is this? Femi asked. It's something I kept hidden, Thomas said. I was scared to show anyone. Inside the box were items from his days as a servant. A broken pencil, a torn notebook, a small stone he used to count days, and a piece of cloth, the uniform he wore. I kept these, Thomas whispered, so I wouldn't forget who I was. Femi touched the items gently. My son, these things don't define you. Thomas shook his head. They do define me, Daddy, because they remind me of what I survived. Femi's eyes softened. And what do you want to do with them now? Thomas smiled for the first time in months. I want to keep them, but I also want to help other children so they never go through what I went through. Femi's heart almost burst with pride. That night he made a bold decision, the legacy. A month later, the world watched as Chief Femi Lawson announced the launch of the Thomas Lawson Foundation for the protection of vulnerable children. Millions watched the broadcast, but only one face mattered to Femi, his sons. Thomas stood beside him, holding his father's hand, proud and fearless. You saved me, he whispered. No, his father replied. You saved me first. The end, but a new beginning. The mansion was no longer a place of secrets. It had become a home again. A father regained his son. A child regained his future, and together they rebuilt a bond stronger than money, stronger than fear, stronger than any betrayal. Because in the end, the greatest wealth a man can ever have is the love of his child. If this story touched you, let us know in the comments and tell us where in the world you're watching from. Don't forget to subscribe to this channel for more emotional, dramatic, and unforgettable stories. Until next time, stay kind, stay strong, and keep watching.